Tonight, Democrats on the defense as their own Russian scandal widens. An FBI informant working undercover at the time of the controversial Uranium One deal is now free to talk. The Justice Department has lifted a gag order so he can tell his story to lawmakers who want to know more about the Obama administration's uranium deals with Moscow and about the cash that flowed to the Clinton Foundation amid the deals. The White House says Democrats have a big problem on their hands.
I think this further proves if there was anyone that was colluding with the Russians to influence the election, look no further than the Clintons, look no further than the DNC. This is hypocrisy at its highest level, and I think it may be a new low in American politics. Everything that the Clinton campaign and the DNC were falsely accusing this president of doing over the past year, they were actually doing themselves, it turns out, and I think that this is a major scandal for the Democrats.
The ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee sees the Uranium One probe as part of an effort to take attention away from the special counsel's investigation into the Trump team's possible coordination with the Russians.
This had to be orchestrated with the approval of the Speaker of the House. And so this is a partisan effort to distract. It's a partisan effort aligned with what the White House has been urging and Fox and Breitbart, and which there was no consultation with the Democrats in Congress. And I think that tells you all you need to know about whether this is in good faith or not.
Dana, big news today, and a lot of people back and forth on this, including the White House taking a position, coming out and attacking. You saw with Sarah Sanders there.
Yeah, so it's a different way to deal with it. So usually with a special investigation, you just basically you say, well, we'll let the Justice Department handle it, but we're in a different sort of world right now. And I think anything that the White House can do to suggest that there was a problem on the Democratic side, if it comes to Russia, that probably benefits them politically because it just makes everything super confusing and looks like everybody's bad. I mean, I cannot believe how many people in Washington were dealing with Russia. But I also think that this deal, this Sisyphus, whatever we want to call it, the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States, it is 9 different departments all looking at something. So it wasn't as if Hillary Clinton just signed it, just did it herself. I am curious about this informant. It's unusual for a gag order like this to be lifted, and apparently this came directly from the president and the speaker putting pressure on the FBI, who complied. And so we don't know this person's identity yet. I understand it's a male, so we'll call him a man. But we'll hopefully find that out soon. And then I don't know if he'll have any additional information or if he'll just be more part of an ongoing investigation. I don't think it will be determinative of any sort of wrongdoing.
Sure.
But it'll just be more of a investigative step.
Yes,
not the conclusion.
But such a very different approach. You're so right. With the juxtaposition in place here in terms of how, Bush administration with you at the helm, different than what we saw today. But nevertheless, they were under attack, Greg, for quite some time, saying that everything was untoward with respect to the election, with Russian collusion. And now you see the layers peeling back. And in fact, with the gag order being lifted to say, OK, here, you want some transparency? There you go.
I love how the media is looking at this. It's like they're trying to tell us that this is nothing after telling us that a minor meeting was something, but somehow this is nothing. It's as if they're showing us an apple and telling us it's a banana.
Great analogy.
A little CNN humor there. I do feel bad for Hillary. After all, it is her birthday today, and I think we should all go to Del Frisco's and get her some yellow cake. Anyway.
That is
our uranium joke.
Exactly. But
delicious
it's funny.
Cake,
she
though.
thought she was going to be celebrating her birthday in the White House, but it seems like it might be closer to the big house.
Ooh.
We'll be right back.
He worked on that all afternoon. Okay.
And it paid off.
We loved it. The yellow cake was my favorite. So Jesse,
yes.
Where do you go from here? If you're, President Trump and his advisors, what do you do in terms of, because you want to maintain the propriety and the sanctity of an investigation, while at the same time giving a bit of a statement to say, listen, this is what's going on. The investigation is going forward, letting the American people know and the press that you're being transparent, that you're not trying to cover up anything. There is no collusion to cover up anything.
Right. I think the president's done the right thing so far. He personally asked for this gag order to be lifted. It's odd because his own FBI and Justice Department have been stonewalling on a few previous Clinton scandals. So I don't know how this is all going to play out, because I think there are people within the administration, FBI and the DOJ, covering their own tracks, which is very suspicious. I want to take issue with something Congressman Schiff said. Congressman Schiff, the Democrat, blaming Fox News for this.
Yeah.
This was the Hill paper that broke this story, not Fox News. I want to clear that up. I'm very interested in what the whistleblower
Blame
is
it on
going
the
to
Fox.
say.
That's what everyone does.
I mean, everybody else does. Why not? But, you know, I want to know why he was gagged. I mean, President Obama has a history of gagging whistleblowers, from Benghazi to Fast and Furious to Bergdahl. I want to hear why he was gagged. I want to hear how the Russians were trying to curry favor with the Clintons. I'd like to know when this Foreign Committee on Investment, if they were made aware of this. If they weren't made aware of this, why not? Or if members of the committee who voted to approve the sale had any idea there was bribery going on with the Russians. So all those things, I think, are going to lead to very interesting explanations. I want to do a little fact check on Juan. I'm going to play the ombudsman for the show, because yesterday he was saying that all this money flowed into the Clinton Foundation way before any of this happened. Not true, Juan. Records show 9 investors in Uranium One gave $145 million to the Clinton Foundation prior to, during, and after the vote on the sale. Want to make that clear.
Can I respond?
In a minute.
Okay.
In 2010, as while all this was going on, Bill Clinton went over to Moscow and was paid $500,000 to give a speech. And while he was over there, he met with Putin. What did he say to Putin? Why was he also trying to meet with a uranium official? All of those things I want to know. I think the bottom line is this is about selling out America. You know, why can we give 20% of the uranium to the Russians, but Americans can't have a tax cut? It's just not fair.
Really?
Juan,
That's equivalent?
Juan, your rebuttal to the ombudsman, self-appointed?
Well, first of all, as I tried to explain to you yesterday, the United States really did have an effort to try to infiltrate Russia's nuclear activity, to try to gain some control and influence in it. But the second thing to say is, of the 9 major contributions to the Clinton Foundation that came from the effort that the Russians were making to bribe, control, influence Americans, most of it, I think 135, came from one donor. And that donor's contributions came years before Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton were involved, and certainly before Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State.
You know why that came in then, Juan? It was the spring when Hillary was supposed to be president. Remember, she was primarying against President Obama.
Well, you can make
Everybody thought Hillary was going to be president. Maybe that's why they were given the money then.
She's a prominent
Turns out
American.
she was Secretary of State.
Well, she was also
Still
former First Lady, but it's not the case, Mr. Ombudsman, that you're right, but you hurt yourself. I'll leave it there and let the blood flow.
Okay.
But I wanted to
don't need a
respond
Band-Aid, Juan.
to the House of Horrors. Because you mentioned all the houses except the outhouse, but the House of Horrors is where I think Republicans think they have Hillary Clinton at the moment, that she is being bombarded. Personally, I didn't know Hillary Clinton was this important. I thought she lost the election, and they're still looking for a bad guy.
So did I, yet she's still campaigning. Hey, I'd be happy for her to go away.
No, you wouldn't.
Entertainment.
No, Republicans, listen,
like,
Republicans need a horse to whip, and on the Democratic side, I guess Obama must be busy.
You should not be referring to her as a horse.
Oh, stop. Thank you. Thank you. Didn't you say you were killing a horse yesterday?
Yes,
All right, let me help you, Juan.
All right,
We're
so
going to segue out of that.
here's
You
the thing.
burned yourself right there.
Oh, I did?
We're going to do this other part. I'm going to come to you
Go right
first.
ahead.
It's going to be so fun.
Okay.
Meanwhile, on the dossier front, the Democratic denials are piling up. President Trump calling out his former opponent for reportedly knowing nothing about her campaign's funding of research to harm Mr. Trump's candidacy.
Hillary Clinton totally denied this. She didn't know anything. She knew nothing. All of a sudden it found out. What I was amazed at, it's almost $6 million that they paid, and it's totally discredited. It's a total phony. I call it fake news. It's disgraceful.
Fake news. Did you know that?
Yeah, we did, Greg. You know who else doesn't buy that the secretary only learned about the dossier after it was published? Oh, her former campaign spokesman. Listen.
You have said previously in the last 24 hours you don't believe Hillary Clinton knew about this either. Is that right?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't
asked.
I haven't spoken to her. Well, I mean, she may have known, but the degree of exactly what she knew is beyond my knowledge.
Ooh, that was awkward. Someone sounds like they don't want to test the lie later. Okay, so Juan, what do you make of that?
Well, look, I think he doesn't know. And here's the thing. She said she didn't know, and that if she had known, she wished they had used some of this information about potential relationships between the Trump campaign and the Russians in terms of getting the message out, advertising, making it plain what was going on. And by the way, let me just tell you, a huge Democratic lament, Obama knew something was going on, never said a word. And people are like, oh, so you assumed Hillary was going to win? Who's to blame here? But I just wanted to pick up on something that comes out of this, which is, to me, we have two separate worlds. You know, it's like Venus and Mars, men and women, Republicans and Democrats, and it's like two different stories, so much so that now in the Senate Judiciary Committee, they've even stopped working together. And Dianne Feinstein, the Democrat from California, says, I'm going to do my investigation. And Charles Grassley, the Republican chair of the committee from Iowa, says, I'm going to do my investigation. And we'll get together when we come back to Trump and Russia. But for now, we're going our separate ways. Same thing in the House, all these committees. Devin Nunes, I thought he was gone. Now he's back again working as what looks like a stand-in for President Trump. And as Jesse just said, whoever heard of the president directing the Department of Justice and the FBI with regard to whether somebody has a confidentiality agreement? Do you think that President Trump has a stake in this fight?
There are also two worlds, too, though. The two worlds. One of the world is the mainstream media, and the rest of the world is America, in the sense that the media is not excited over this story. It's Pulitzer-prizing turf, but unfortunately, it's not about Trump. Whereas America would probably be interested in this, but the media is like saying, no, no, no. If it doesn't involve DT, forget it.
You know what? The New York Times just went off. I mean, went off. Maggie Haberman and others.
Haberman.
She's special.
What?
I'd say, no, she's special.
Okay, I don't know why.
She's different.
Someone
she's
you
good.
like? Okay,
yes.
all right. Well, anyway, she went off at Mark Elias. Right?
Yes.
Because they said that Elias, who apparently is the one who paid the check to Fusion GPS, lied to them.
Yeah.
So I don't see how you would say, oh, the media, if this wasn't about, the media is hiding something for Hillary. That's not the case.
Actually, it is, because her friend Stephanopoulos on ABC this morning only gave this story, uranium, 30 seconds. You know how much time he devoted to the Trump Tower meeting?
Well,
10 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's
10
when it was
minutes.
new.
It's a big discrepancy.
A meeting that was driven by the questionable dossier that they paid for.
Yeah, I also want to take issue as the ombudsman
They built this.
with something else one said the other day, which I found totally inaccurate.
Go ahead. There's still blood on the floor.
You said that the dossier, besides the whole salacious thing, was mostly true. Well, I actually looked at the dossier, and here are some of the findings, Juan.
Certainly. By the way, do not bring up anything about women and beds.
I wouldn't. No, that was the part that's obviously false.
All right.
This is what it says. The Kremlin supplied Trump with a regular flow of intelligence about Democrats. Was that true?
I don't know.
Trump was offered various sweetener business deals by the Kremlin, but turned them down. I don't think that's true. Also, Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, was the point man for meetings with Kremlin officials in the Czech Republic. Never been to the Czech Republic. And Trump's team used moles within the DNC to hack the DNC along with the Russians.
Never proved substantiated.
Those all are erroneous. So I don't see how you can sit here and say the Trump dossier is mostly true and all that I just read you isn't.
All right, Ombudsman, rest your case. Ms. Bruno.
Well, I do think that the White House is smart to talk about this, because to your point, that if the White House had not mentioned it, if President Trump had not talked about it in the interview with Lou Dobbs on Fox Business, then it wouldn't have even gotten 30 seconds of coverage on Good Morning America or other places. But remember, most people are getting their news now from social media. The majority of people get the majority of their news from social media. So it does get a little polarized on both sides. So whenever this investigation is finished, I have a feeling that most people have already made up their minds.
So true. I mean, that's the thing. They've already got it baked in.
And who's winning in all this is Putin, because the whole point of this was undermining an American institution, and we are undermining ourselves over this story.
I think that's the big picture there.
Yeah.
All right, we wrap that up.